The FCC has unveiled its plans and efforts to scale back net neutrality. In fact, they are completely getting rid of the 2015 regulations that would essentially force internet service providers to treat every website equally. And as a result, these internet service providers are now free to experiment with internet speeds on various websites as they please. Now, there's another component to this that's relevant, and it is the effort to block individual states from regulating the internet. Internet service providers want to avoid a repeat of what happened this year on broadband privacy when nearly 24 states, 22 of them, proposed legislation to replace an Obama FCC regulation that Congress revoked. Now, Pai's Restoring Internet Freedom order says that state and local regulations attempting to regulate broadband in ways that run counter to the federal rules would be preemptive. So if you're wondering how this would work in practice, it's actually pretty simple. If a state attempts to impose its own net neutrality law and a company objects to the FCC, the agency could issue a ruling that could be used in a court battle. Now, this entire case is likely to go to the courts. The FCC's decision will be challenged, and I hope it'll be challenged aggressively. But what Pai is doing right now is a complete and utter disaster if you do believe in a free and open internet.
So let's dive in here. So first, the fact that Pai calls it restoring internet freedom is grotesque. It's Orwellian, and what he's saying is, well, Obama put in place a regulation. That sounds so scary. And wait, what does the regulation do? He says, oh, it micromanages the internet. Really? We're all on the internet. You're on the internet. It doesn't matter if you're right wing or left wing. Has it been micromanaged? No. In reality, what the quote unquote regulation did was it set a rule, a government rule saying that the corporations that control the pipes into your homes cannot regulate the internet. They cannot choose winners and losers, slow down or speed up different websites based on their corporate interests. It said the internet must be free and equal to everyone. It doesn't matter what your political positions are. So he is purposely lying about it in order to serve the people that he worked for before. He worked for Verizon. He'll work for those corporations again. And yes, it's about his financial issues. But I want you to understand something. This is really important because I did a story on this yesterday and I read some of the comments. And you should be furious about it. But some people want to do something to Ajit Pai. That's nuts. You have to understand, Ajit Pai he's a butler. He's a waiter. He's a servant, okay? So getting all angry at Ajit Pai is getting mad at the guy, a busboy that cleans your table, okay?
He's a symptom of this corrupt system.
Yes. Yeah. So, and in his mind, he's like, what? I mean, Verizon gave me all this money, and then I came here. I got such a nice position, and I like Reese's Pieces, and it's fine. I'm just going to take away your freedom on the internet and then call it freedom. But he's getting paid to do that. So, what you should actually be angry about is a system that allows for this kind of systemic corruption. And it happens, in this case, it happens to be Republicans. It does happen on the Democratic level, as we just explained in another story we did about banking. But here, all the Republicans and Americans for Tax Reform, for example, Grover Norquist, those are the guys who want tax cuts for the rich and deregulation for the rich and for corporations. They love this ruling. They're like, bravo, Pai. Excellent freedom that you've given people, wink. In other words, we now get to set the rules. And so that's a really important thing I need to explain to you. What do regulations means? What does it mean? It just means rules. If you get rid of so-called government regulations, does that mean there are no rules, there's just anarchy? No. What the Republicans are doing in this case and what they do in a lot of cases is they just transfer the rule-making authority from the government to private corporations. In this case, the government said you're not allowed to mess with the internet. And that's why, as you've seen in these years, they haven't messed with the internet and all the websites work the same, right? Now, what Ajit Pai is proposing is, and the Republicans are proposing here is, no, we now let the corporations make the rules. So the government, which ostensibly works for the public interest and us, theoretically, right? Not allowed to set the rules. Private corporations whose only interest is to maximize their own profits now get to set the rules. So then Verizon, Comcast, AT&T can come in and go, Okay, great. Now the new rules are my websites work really well and yours don't. And if you offend my corporate interests, my advertisers, my consumers, I'll either completely block your website, because if I slow it down enough, none of the videos will work.
Right.
It won't. Most people won't be able to load the articles. You won't be able to see the website at all, in effect. Now, if you're a right winger, well, why would hey, the Republicans who claim to be my representatives are on this side. They should be. This is an excellent example of how they lie to you, and they're not at all on your side. They're on the side of their donors. So in this case, the Republicans get paid by those companies to do their bidding, okay? But in reality, it's not like they mind the regulation. They know the corporations are gonna put regulations in. And so why would the corporations be against the right wing? Here, so for a lot of the right wing, they think Muslims are the problem, right? Oh, we need to profile them, they're uniquely dangerous, etc. You know who doesn't agree? Multinational corporations. You know why? And this is, in my opinion, this is a great thing about corporations, but I know the right wing won't agree. Because there's 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. Those are their consumers. They don't want you to offend those Muslims. So if you start saying things against Muslims, oh, look at that, your website got slowed down because you were costing me money.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna say things against Latinos, I haven't done the math on it, but around 1 billion Latinos or so, right? Oh, your website's really slow, what can I do? Oh, I wanna be able to bring in immigrants for cheap labor. You're opposed to that? Oh, your website's so slow, slow, sorry about that. If you allow private corporations to set the rules, they will set the rules, obviously. Anyone with half a brain knows this. They will set it for their own interests, not for your interests.
No, Cenk, but the free market will decide. The free market that, by the way.
But there is no free market.
There is, exactly. So in order to have a fully functioning free market, you need access to information. You need an informed public that knows what's going on. And where do you think people are getting their information from right now? In some regard, it's kind of scary with all the fake stuff that's out there, but the internet has democratized information where you don't have to go to an Ivy League school to educate yourself. You have every fact, every bit of info you want to know at your fingertips. And if you have multinational corporations in charge of what you can and can't see, that's a really dangerous place to live in, especially when you consider the fact that we're already so incredibly divided as a country. I see this as making things a lot worse. You need the internet, just like you need colleges, to be a free marketplace of ideas, okay? And right now, I'm really concerned that these giant internet service providers, many of which are media conglomerates as well, right? Like they own a bunch of media, will now decide like you only get to see certain things. You only get to be informed by our perspective, and anything that disagrees with our perspective will be slowed down to the point where it's inaccessible. It's just a disaster.
If you're a progressive, you should hate this because it's actually against freedom. And the internet is one thing we could use to fight back against the establishment. If you're a right winger, you should hate it more, to be honest. Because Verizon owns Huffington Post, and they own AOL, and they own Yahoo, and AT&T is going to buy Time Warner, or they're trying to buy Time Warner, which has CNN, et cetera. They're willing to make deals with those outlets because they don't offend their customers and their consumers. They don't have any deals with Breitbart, because Breitbart offends their consumers day in and day out, right? You guys are the first to go, okay? And so when they come for you, I will actually defend you, and that is what we're doing, right? Because they will come for everyone, because their goal is not for happiness and freedom and unicorns. Their goal is maximize profit for their own interest. And again, Ajit Pai is not the guy to get super angry about and say you're gonna do terrible things. So that's a bad, terrible idea. Yes, go to the FCC, December 14th. Yes, protest, go every day to protest. Use political means to protest. Here, I'll give you the address again. Let's go to graphics 30 through 31. Federal Communications Commission is at 445 12th Street Southwest. You should stop by at all times. For God's sake, be civil. Be forceful in your political protest, but be civil. Call them 1-888 call 1-888-call-FCC, and then Ajit Pai's email is actually on the website. That's where we got it. Ajit.pai@fcc.gov. By the way, they got 22 million comments on this rule. They never tell us which way those comments went.
I think
almost all of them were against this rule from the right wing, the left wing, and the middle wing, right? But they're like, oh, we got 22 million comments, and then we threw them in the garbage. How many of them were against this rule? I'm not gonna tell you because it's really embarrassing. And finally, last thing, why did the Obama era rules, and they make it sound serious, oh, right wing, it's okay, I'm on your side. It's an Obama era rule, that's so scary. Why did it choose to regulate the internet service providers as a utility? Because they wanted to make sure that those guys couldn't put these rules into place. So think about it this way, there's one pipe going into your house, a public utility like electricity or water. If the government doesn't regulate it, they go, oh, you were paying $80 for your water. It's now $1,000 a month. But wait a minute, I can't, that'll squeeze everything else out. I'll have to be basically working for the water company. That's right, it's the only pipe going into your house. Do you want water or don't you want water? Oh, you're thirsty, aren't you? $1,000. That's why the government has to say, no, you're the only pipe going in. You can't charge $1,000.
You're giving them some ideas with our water.
No, and then electricity. Oh, you'd like electricity. Oh, you'd like heating in the winter so you don't die. It used to be $65, it's now $2,000. And then libertarians will say, well, if they charge that, most people will die. Well, first of all, examine that sentence for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they will realize not to use that electric company. They don't have a choice. That's the only electric company. And the electric company won't set it at $2,000. It will set it at exactly the price at which you will be crushed, but can barely pay it, because they will maximize profits. And like those companies, there's only one pipe going into your house with the internet, and almost no choice across the country. It's basically a monopoly in almost every market, okay? And so if the government says, hey, have at it, Hoss, whichever internet provider is giving you that one pipe, they go, great. I got the consumers, we're exactly where I want them, captured and at my disposal, and I've got all the websites and everybody else going on the internet also at my mercy. Thank you very much, government, for letting me set the rules for only my benefit. And so that's what Ajit Pai, the FCC, and the Republicans are doing today. And that's the reality. If you like the Young Turks, you'll love Young Turks membership. TYTnetwork.com/join.